The science of depression. Depression, as you understand now, has an array of misguided stigmas. As much as people are unaware of the details of depression, there are always those who constantly challenge and criticize the diagnosis of depression. Some perceive depression to be just a prolonged bad mood or even see a depressed person as someone who has a very negative outlook on life in general. Science has broken down the types of depression and has proven to the cynics that it is much more than just a phase of bad moods or a factor of outlook and perception. Depression was termed as a chemical imbalance in the brain in the past, and especially scientists believed the lack of the neurotransmitter serotonin was the reason for that. Serotonin is often referred to as the feel-good chemical. However, the only real evidence for this was that patients came in with complaints that lead to this particular diagnosis were prescribed drugs to increase their serotonin levels. The results were that the symptoms were able to become controlled. Even though the drugs worked temporarily, this does not show conclusively just how complex depression is. In the recent past, scientists have discovered that the brain cell growth and the connection of cells plays a much larger role than was perceived in the early years. When the brain of a depressed person is examined, studies show that the hippocampus in the brain is much smaller than average when someone is depressed. Other areas of the brain are also physically affected, but this region particularly controls the memory and emotions. The longer the person has been depressed, the smaller the hippocampus becomes. The cells and networks, quite literally, deteriorate. It turns out that stress can be one of the main triggers that reduces the number of neurons in this part of the brain. The good news, however, is that the studies have shown that with regeneration of the neurons in this part of the brain means that the mood improves. Interestingly, many of the drugs prescribed that affect serotonin levels have an indirect effect on the growth of brain cells. Now, this is a likely reason why serotonin-based drugs tend to help some patients, rather than for the reasons that were once supposed. The exact reason, in this case, is that the spike in serotonin levels generates other chemicals that stimulate neurogenesis, in other words growth of neurons. With this discovery, scientists are now working towards targeting neurogenesis directly for better and more effective results. There have also been scientists who have discovered that depression is transmitted through genes. The gene that transmits the depression figuratively is called the serotonin transporter gene. Every individual has 2 copies of the gene, one from each parent. This particular gene strand can either be short or long. After tracking over 800 young adults over 5 years, studies revealed that 33% of individuals with one short version became depressed after being put into stressful conditions. People who had 2 short genes did even worse. On the contrary, people with 2 long genes had a strong disposition to be depressed with a similar amount of traumatic conditioning. Many other genes have also been identified that could potentially carry depression and make it a hereditary norm in the family. It does make sense. Depression and bipolar disorders are both known to run in families. Studies on biological twins have shown that if one twin has depression or bipolar disorder, the other twin has a 60% to 80% chance of developing it too. While the true cause or the roots of depression are yet to be pinned down precisely, there is talk about depression sharing symptoms and similarities with various other illnesses like amygdala, trauma, circadian rhythm, and a lot more. We need to understand that depression is a condition with a biological base along with psychosomatic and societal implications. It is not just a phase that you get over. or something you have a say in. If you liked this personal video that you share with your friends, like and subscribe to my channel, so that we can motivate ourselves and bring the best content on this subject. Thanks for watching. Until the next video.